I don't think I was ever introduced as the measurement geek at a presentation. I do like measurement though. I work as an advanced performance specialist at Google EMEA. I'm currently based in Munich. And in my role, I basically deal with our product folks who sit in Mountain View, who work on all the measurement-related products like Google Analytics, AdWords conversion tracking, and some of the DoubleClick stack. And also work with our sales teams here in EMEA to better understand what our clients want, what insights they're looking for, what features they use, features they're missing in our products, and try to basically push feedback in both directions, plus teach our internal sales teams, but also our clients about our measurement solutions, how they can use them, and how they can derive like actionable insights from our various measurement tools. So we're gonna do this session, and then after that I'm gonna do 3 measurement breakouts. This session is primarily focused on all the measurement solutions that we have in AdWords around mobile. The breakout sessions are a bit more focused on web analytics, yeah, just to set some expectations. So if you're mainly looking for analytics stuff and you're missing it here, it's coming up in the breakout sessions if you're signed up for those. Okay, let's get started. So as I said, I speak to a lot of our very advanced clients, and often when I speak to CMOs or head of onlines or e-commerce managers, what they say is mobile. Yeah, we tried it, but mobile doesn't convert. It doesn't drive any value. We've looked at the conversion rates for mobile, and we're clearly seeing it's not working at all, especially if we compare it to desktop. Conversion rates are so much lower. But if this is really true, if mobile is really not driving value and really not converting in some way or form, you as a business clearly have a problem. I think we've all seen this type of charts where we basically plot search queries over time. We break them down by device category, desktop and tablet, and then we have the line for mobile. And we call the point where the mobile queries are get to be higher than the desktop queries, the so-called mobile moment. And probably you guys know that for many of your businesses, this moment is already here, or it's coming soon, or it has already been a year since that moment happened, but this is coming. And the interesting thing is that it's not just search. It's not just search queries. There's this nice chart from Comscore that a guy called Luke Wroblewski, who some of you might know is a UX guru when it comes to mobile. He put this nice chart together that shows that time spent on smartphones, on mobile devices already surpassed time spent on desktop at the end of 2013. So people are really using their mobile phones a lot, not just for searching. Now, what is true, though, when I talk to these CMOs and we look at their data in AdWords or in analytics, what we do see is that what they say is kind of true. Because the conversion rates on desktop here in gray, the top line, are almost 3 times as high as the conversion rates on mobile are. This is data from a company called Monetate, who publish a very nice quarterly e-commerce report where they break this out by device category. There's loads of other interesting data points in the report as well, but this is really interesting. And what is especially interesting, that especially when you look at the time around Christmas, is that the gap between the conversion rates between desktop and mobile almost seems to grow over time. So the issue is almost getting worse, right? So it seems like they're kind of right when they say, okay, conversion rates are so bad, mobile, not so important for us. Desktop, that's where the money is, yeah? And the question is, okay, why is this? Why do we see this effect? Why is there an increasing difference in the conversion rates? And in my mind, there's 2 main reasons for this. The first one has to do with looking at the wrong metrics. And I'll show you an example of that. So I recently relocated to Munich around 2 weeks ago, and on Tuesday I visited my first game of Bayern Munich. So I was in the stadium, and the football fans amongst you will know that Lewandowski in this game scored 5 goals in 9 minutes. It was insane. Nobody has ever seen anything like that. And if you look at Google Trends, we see that on that day, suddenly, if you compare it to searches for Angela Merkel, suddenly Lewandowski goes up like crazy. Now, without having any context about what Lewandowski did on that day, what was so remarkable, without being able to look at trends, so look at search queries over a longer period of time, but just by looking at that day, you would probably say, okay, clearly Lewandowski seems to be more popular than Angela Merkel, but you fail to see the larger context here. And that's exactly what is happening on mobile as well. Here I have some data for a fictional retailer. And we're going to look at visits or sessions per device category and conversions per device category. Yeah? And I want to start by looking here at the number of sessions per device category. What we see is that in yellow, mobile sessions are increasing. We're comparing a period in this year with the exact same period in the last year. Yeah? And we're seeing all growth is basically coming from mobile. Yeah? The increase in the total number of sessions is coming from mobile. And this is what we see pretty much with any advertiser. And probably you see this in your data as well. Then when we look at the conversions per device category, again doing the exact same comparison, we see that desktop is losing conversions, it's going down. Smartphone, mobile, plus 61%, and tablet is slowing growly as well. And again, this is very representative of what we see in general. Now my question to you is, how would this advertiser judge mobile performance? Sessions are growing on mobile, conversions are growing on mobile, looks really, really good, right? Mobile looks pretty strong here. The total number might not be super high yet, but it's growing. It's going pretty well. Sessions are growing as well. Looks pretty good to me. But what most advertisers do is that they look at the conversion rate per device. And if we take the data that we just saw and calculate the conversion rate and the change in that over time, we see that the smartphone or mobile conversion rate actually went down, minus 0.15%. Desktop, we clearly saw that there's less sessions on desktop now, there's less conversions on desktop. Still, the conversion rate goes up. Yeah, and this is how a lot of advertisers look at mobile performance. They just see conversion rate not improving, despite making all those efforts, improving websites, driving more traffic, and so on and so on. Conversion rate goes down, mobile sucks, desktop rocks, right? And this is an approach that is not sustainable. What you need to do is you need to look at performance across those devices. You need to look at things holistically. You need to calculate what we call the multi-device conversion rate, which basically is conversions across all screens divided by sessions across all screens. And ideally, you'd be able to improve this. In this example, we see that the conversion rate across all screens is going down as well. So clearly, something is not going well here. Of course, there's also scenarios in which if your conversion rate goes down, it might not be a bad thing, right? If you are highly reliant on content, if you try to get people back to your site all the time with newsletters, with great content, with videos and stuff like that, you probably have a pretty engaged audience. So if your conversion rate goes down a bit, but the total conversions go up, that might still be a good thing. So of course you need to look at total conversion volume as well, not just the conversion rate, but this is definitely a better indicator of how performance overall is developing than just looking at these siloed views. Imagine you're responsible for mobile in a company and your CEO always looks at the conversion rate and says, I don't know, we're spending so much on mobile, conversion rates are just not improving. What are you doing, right? So this is basically the first issue. And there's a couple of metrics that actually support this message. If we look at conversions happening on desktop, what we generally see for most of our advertisers is that people who convert on desktop now look at less pages before converting because they've already done research somewhere else. What we also see is that they spend less time on the desktop side using their desktop machine before converting. Again, because they've already done research somewhere else. And the third metric you can look at is that desktop users now, a higher percentage of desktop users now tends to convert in their first session on desktop. So they've never visited your site before, apparently, and then they suddenly come and they convert right away. Yeah, and it happens more often than before. Again, because they've did research on other devices and now come on desktop ready to convert. So I highly recommend looking at a couple of these metrics in your data as well to verify this. But we see this for many of our advertisers. Now the second reason why conversions and conversion rates are so much lower on mobile is incomplete measurement. I guess most of you who are active on mobile and advertising on mobile, either you're generating leads and you're measuring how many leads you're getting from mobile, or you have an actual commerce store and you're measuring transactions there. You probably, hopefully, have some web tracking set up on mobile as well, and you know a bit about user engagement and about site traffic. But what many advertisers fail to do is, A, we just discussed this, the cross-device effect, and we go into more detail on how to measure that in a bit, but also simple things, or what seem to be simple things, like measuring calls, making sure that store visits are taken into account if you have a physical store or multiple physical stores, and app downloads. Now, I don't have time to go into all of these, but I do want to go a bit into detail around measuring calls and measuring store visits, also because there's some really cool developments and solutions that we're working on there. Just to highlight, okay, why are calls so important? Just by looking at these two options, right? You have on your phone the option to fill out a huge form, or you have the option to make a quick call. A lot of people on their mobile phone decide to make a quick call. And it's not just due to usability things, but some people just prefer to talk to somebody. Maybe it's because of the product that they're buying. Maybe it's of a high value. Maybe they have questions and so on. And that's why a lot of people, and this is research from Germany and the UK that we did together with Ipsos, 50% of people say, okay, calls are super important in my path to purchase. I'd like to talk to someone, or at least have the option to talk to someone, because it just makes me feel good. It makes me feel like it's a legitimate business, and when I have the chance, I can, or if I want to, I can talk to somebody. So calls. The second one is store visits, and that mobile on the go is really local. Again, we have some pretty nice research here from Ipsos that tells us that if people are on the go and they search on their mobile phone, 56% of those searches have local intent. So they're searching for a store, they're trying to find something nearby, 56%. We also have another stat that shows that 50% of those consumers visit a store within a day of their search with local intent. 50%. And that is on mobile. Desktop, it's around 34% who actually visit a store within a day after their search with local intent. So if users are on the go, if they search with local intent, it's really important to be present, to give them the right information, and so on and so on. And we'll look at that in great detail. And of course, the challenge there is to figure out, okay, if I'm doing all that, if I am present, how do I measure that people actually get to my store? Okay, so we have two challenges. First challenge being this whole cross-device phenomena that's probably playing a role. And the second challenge is that there's incomplete measurement and we're not measuring everything. Let's start by tackling the first challenge, cross-device conversions. In AdWords, our solution to cross-device, and I think most of you probably know this, is something we've up till now called estimated cross-device conversions. That's changing. The estimated is going away. We made an announcement on that, I think it's now two weeks ago. So that's going away, but I like this a lot because all it basically requires is you having a conversion tracking tag on your site. So as soon as you have AdWords conversion tracking, you're able to measure cross-device conversions. There might be some reasons why you're not currently seeing data. I'll go into that. But in principle, that's all you need to measure cross-device effects. So AdWords conversion tracking. Now, how does this actually work? There's quite some confusion around this, I think. So let's take this scenario. A user searches for a vacation on their mobile phone, clicks on a Google ad, then goes on to his desktop device, visits the site directly, and then books his vacation. Now, if this user is signed in to a Google service, so Gmail or Google Search or YouTube or whatever it is on both those devices, we're basically able to connect those, yeah, and measure that somebody who clicked on an ad on mobile now converted on desktop. Yeah? So for people who are, or Google users that are logged in, we're able to measure those cross-device effects. Credit always goes to the last ad click, and that's important. Here, the last ad click happened on the mobile device, because the visit here was a direct visit. Yeah? So credit goes to the mobile device. If the scenario would be different and there was an ad click here, and on desktop there was also an ad click, credit would go to the desktop device. So conversions are not duplicated in any way or form within AdWords, and that's an important point here. Now, of course, not every user out there is signed in to Google. It's a significant amount if you think about the amount of users that are signed up to Gmail, YouTube, Google Search, and so on, but it's not everybody. That's why we basically observe these cross-device conversions from our logged-in users, then do some estimation extrapolation of the data to the total population based on a whole lot of factors. And then we show that data in your AdWords account only if we have 95% confidence of the cross-device effect. So that basically means that if in your cross-device column, or currently it's still called estimated cross-device column, you see 10 cross-device conversions, that means that we're 95% sure that the actual number of cross-device conversions that happened are between 9 and 11. Yeah? So 95% sure that they're between 9 and 11 if we say they are 10. That's basically what the 95% confidence interval means. So as I said, maybe some of you would love to see this data, but when you go into your account, and I'll show you what it looks like in an account right after, you don't see any data. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Maybe you're currently not really present on mobile, so there is just nobody clicking on your ads on mobile and then going to desktop to convert, or maybe even the other way around. So of course you need to be present on mobile, otherwise you're not going to see these type of effects. It's really important that you have this AdWords conversion tracking code on all relevant conversion pages, so on desktop, mobile, tablet, and so forth. Otherwise, we're not able to measure these cross-device effects. Ideally, and especially if you have multiple accounts, multiple AdWords accounts, targeting a specific domain or a specific brand, you would use cross-account conversion tracking. Very, very important. So we're basically able to measure cross-device effects across those accounts and don't look at these silos that are these individual accounts. Another issue, some of you might be using something called conditional tag firing, so only firing the conversion tracking tag if the last ad click was the last interaction before the conversion was from AdWords. That conditional firing obviously causes the AdWords conversion tracking tag not to fire every time, and that's a reason why you wouldn't see any cross-device conversions, because we don't know that a conversion happened and we're not able to report on it. An appropriate conversion window length maybe you currently have a conversion window of 30 days, and we know that conversions that happen across devices tend to take a bit more time. So maybe you need to increase your conversion window length to accommodate for that. So it has to be an appropriate length. And the last thing, of course, is accommodating cross-device behavior. If you're not making it easy for people to move from one device to another, you're probably also not going to see cross-device behavior. And I have some examples on that as well. Okay, so let's look at what this looks like in AdWords. And I basically already updated this to what it will look like in the interface soon. So we'll get rid of the estimated, and the estimated here basically because it causes a lot of confusion. People don't really know what this is, the estimated, and it also, it generates a concern about what exactly happens behind the scenes there, so we're making changes to that. By default, in AdWords, you'll see this column, your total conversions column, and the cross-device conversion column is a column you can add in AdWords. And with that, you can see at the campaign or ad group level how many cross-device conversions have been recorded for a specific campaign or ad group. So if you see really high numbers here for a specific campaign or ad group, you know that that campaign or ad group is driving a lot of conversions on another device than where the actual ad click happened. Yeah? And you can segment this by device as well. For instance, just to look at mobile, and you can exactly see for mobile which of my campaigns, which of my ad groups are driving conversions on other devices than mobile. Yeah? With this cross-device data and these additional insights and these basically additional conversions that get attributed to a specific campaign or ad group, you can start recalculating some of your original metrics. And you can answer questions like, what increase do I see if I include these cross-device conversions? How much does my mobile CPA drop if I include for those cross-device effects? Does mobile return on investment improve significantly? Maybe you'll find that by including those cross-device conversions, you suddenly see that it does make sense to invest in mobile, that it is driving actual value. And our recommendation definitely is to focus here, if you want to start testing in increasing your mobile bids, to focus on those campaigns and ad groups where A, you see a large uplift in terms of cross-device conversions, and B, you have a lot of headroom. And headroom is basically defined by the potential that you have by bidding up. If you're already always at the #1 position with your ads, with a specific ad group or campaign or keyword, it probably doesn't make so much sense to increase your bids, right? Because you're not going to generate more conversions probably. But if there's ad groups or campaigns where you have a relatively low impression share or a relatively low ad rank, but you're still seeing a really big cross-device uplift, those are probably the campaigns you want to start with increasing your bids and figuring out what happens after you've done that, what happens in terms of total conversions that you're generating. Now this all seems like still a pretty manual process, and it kind of is, because you have to calculate and figure out where is there potential and so on. And that's why I'm pretty excited about this beta we announced, or this feature we announced a while back. This is currently being tested by a couple of advertisers, and those advertisers use AdWords auto bidding. I don't know how many of you use auto bidding in AdWords, but if you're using auto bidding in AdWords and you're optimizing towards conversions, so you're bidding based on target CPA or return on ad spend, we're now going to include a simple box here. If you click it, there's a little checkbox that basically says include cross-device conversions. And the conversion optimizer, our bidding solution, our bidding algorithm will start taking into account these cross-device conversions when doing its bidding. So it basically automatically takes in these extra signals. It recognizes that specific, for instance, mobile campaigns drive conversions across screens, and it will start bidding up for that to generate a higher number of total conversions across screens. First results we've seen here have been really positive in terms of conversion uplift, and advertisers have been super happy. So I'm super happy that this is now coming, because it makes it so much more actionable, this data. Because up till now, it's pretty manual. What are some advertisers doing here? How are they making the most of this? What they do is that, of course, they find out in their account, as I said, what are really the drivers of these cross-device conversions. For those campaigns and ad groups where there's headroom, they try to increase traffic from those campaigns and ad groups. They have a UX, they have a user experience that accommodates cross-device behavior, and they test the effect of changes they make to their bids. And they test the effect across screens. They don't just look at mobile. They increase their mobile bids. They don't just look at mobile, what happens there if they get more mobile conversions, but they look at the effect across screens. One of these advertisers listed here, Shutterfly. I like this one, and not mainly because it says that, okay, they invested more in mobile, and now they get 115 times more conversions, which seems pretty insane to me, but that's what they reported. But I like this one because what they used to basically convince the internal team and the internal stakeholders to increase their investment in mobile is that they used the estimated cross-device uplift in AdWords, because they saw that there was a 60% increase in conversions attributed to mobile if they would take into account these cross-device effects. And they then used that and started optimizing based on that. And it really paid off here. I promised to show a bit about accommodating cross-device behavior. I think you might have seen something about this yesterday as well. So really briefly, on the left, a simple thing you can do is allow people to save their basket. If they're on their mobile phone, save their basket to their email and then send it to themselves to convert later on desktop. Here, Walmart even has the option to save individual items from the basket and later on get back to those. It's also funny here, so I'm buying something here for $5 and I get like an upsell for $44 to get free shipping, which is a pretty big upsell, I think. And here on the right, really important thing as well are all the social networks, but especially WhatsApp and email as well, just to be able to quickly get back to something when on another device, to share something with somebody else who is on another device, and so on. So all examples of accommodating cross-device behavior. Summing up, to tackle this challenge, make sure you use AdWords conversion tracking, make sure you apply the best practices we discussed, conversion window length, cross-account tracking, and so on, and that you accommodate cross-device behavior. If it's really tough for people to move from one device to another and they basically get stuck and then can't find what they found on mobile, can't find it on desktop, it becomes really tough, so you need to accommodate that. Then once you've done that, make sure you look at the right metrics and find out where the potential is, where you have headroom, which campaigns and ad groups are driving cross-device conversions. And then you start optimizing. Currently, a relatively manual process because you need to figure some stuff out and change bids manually probably, or change something in your bid management system. But soon, as long as you're using auto bidding in AdWords, it's just one checkbox and you're optimizing towards total conversions already, which is really a great thing. Okay, let's quickly move on to the second challenge, measuring all relevant mobile conversions. And we said we're going to look at calls and we're going to look at store visits. I want to start with calls, and this is a really interesting stat that not many people are aware of, I think. So this basically this is data from the US, and this looks at calls that basically get generated from mobile search. And the estimation is that currently we're at around 40-something billion calls in 2015, and the expectation is that it's going to rise to 73 billion in 2018. So people are calling more and more, mainly because it's really easy to find something on your mobile phone and immediately make a call as well, instead of switching between a phone and a laptop and so on. So people are really eager to make calls. Some businesses really see calls as a key part, because they say, okay, we can better talk to the client, we can convince the client. In general, calls, purchases made on the phone have a higher value, and so on. So calls are becoming pretty big. But the challenge with calls is actually measuring if these calls generated a conversion, if they drive value. 3 keys to success. Of course, it has to be easy for people to call you. You want to be able to measure these calls accurately. And of course, you want to optimize campaigns that drive valuable calls to your business. I believe this was included as well yesterday. We have call extensions that allow people to call you right away from your ad just by tapping it on a high-end mobile device. There's even call-only campaigns. If you still have a crappy mobile website, maybe you want like a call-only campaign so you get people on the phone right away and they don't get to see your poor mobile website. That might be a solution as well, at least short term. But the tricky thing is, as I said, measuring what is going on. Are these ads really driving value? And a cool thing that we've launched in a number of European countries or EMEA countries as well is something we call Google forwarding numbers. And basically what we do, we dynamically assign a phone number to your ad. And when somebody calls that phone number, we're able to record that a call was made. And what you're able to do from within your AdWords account is say, okay, if a call to a specific phone number or from a specific ad lasts for at least 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever number of minutes you want, we're going to record a conversion. Because if I have somebody on the phone for 5 minutes or for 10 minutes, from that call that had a specific target group that shows specific intent of the user, we know that something got sold, and we're going to count that as a conversion. And it works via these Google forwarding numbers. Now this is available not only for ads, but also on your website. So if you're driving visitors to a specific landing page, you can there include such a dynamic forwarding number as well. Then when that phone number gets called, basically the AdWords system gets a notification that phone number was now called. And again, if that call lasts for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, whatever you enter, you can count a conversion as well. So it works for calls from your ads and calls from your website as well. And what you can even do is, let's say you're selling 2 or 3 different products or services and they all have like totally different values, and you want to, in the end, optimize for the one that has the higher value, you would use different phone numbers, different call tracking scripts, basically on the different pages that talk about these services. So you don't just have to have one website call conversion script, but you can have multiple as well and optimize to the most valuable one. You will get pretty neat reports that have full details on the calls, how long they lasted, where they came from, and so on. And with that, you'll get the conversions in your reporting in AdWords. You'd be able to see how many calls did my campaign or ad group drive. And again, you can include that in your automated bidding. So you can say, okay, I want to include those type of conversions and I want to optimize towards them with my target return on ad spend bidding or with my target CPA bidding. So it's immediately actionable here as well. Okay, one example of an advertiser who did this, and I just want to highlight one thing here because again, this is one of those advertisers that before was a bit unsure about the value of mobile. Then they implemented website call conversion. So you see the phone number here. And now they attribute 56% more revenue to their mobile ads than they did before. So before they said, mobile is not really working, nobody's buying blinds on their mobile phone, it sucks. Now they're able to see how many people actually then call the business after looking through things on their website. Okay, final topic, store visits and figuring out if people visit your store. So especially relevant to those of you who have a physical store. We know most of the retail sales, 93%, still happens in store. So huge, huge numbers there. More interesting even is that a lot less people actually visit stores. So there's data that shows that from 2010 to 2013, the number of people actually walking into stores to buy something has decreased by 55%, so big, big decrease. But at the same time, the in-store conversion rate has doubled. So people actually walking into stores, they tend to buy something. Again, we probably think that's because they've done their research before, they already know what to buy, and if they come to the store, they really want to buy it. So that's why the conversion rate goes up. But it also shows that visits to stores are extremely valuable now, much more valuable than they used to be. So it's important to be able to drive traffic in store, but also to measure if you're successful in driving traffic to stores, driving footfall, basically. There's 4 keys to success here. Of course, you want to target people with the right content, with the right ads. You want to measure the effect of online on offline, and then you want to start optimizing for omni-channel or multi-channel performance, or whatever you want to call it. Targeting consumers in locations near you. Probably all of you who have locations are targeting people who are nearby and search for your business, and you're providing them with your store address and your opening hours. You have that set up in Google My Business, so people immediately find what they're looking for, and you make it easy to visit your store. Maybe you're already one step ahead, and you're working with local inventory ads. So if somebody searches on mobile for a specific product, it shows that it is in store in your shop, that they can immediately pick it up. It tells them how long your shop is open, how to get there, and so on. That's all possible. So there's plenty of ways to get people to your store with relevant information. But then it's down to, okay, now we need to measure if that really works. And we recently launched something in a number of countries now, which we call store visits or store visits reporting. And this basically works by, of course, looking at people who click on specific AdWords ads for a business. And then for those users who have enabled location sharing with Google, we're able to basically track if this user goes to a store. So if you've told Google where your stores are, we're basically able to see, okay, somebody clicked on an ad, now they spent, let's say, 5 minutes at the exact location of the store, so we know they were in the store, and we would report this in AdWords. So that's store visit reporting. So this is something we're doing with a number of clients currently, and there are some requirements. So you need to have like significant spend to drive traffic to stores. Your store needs to be of a specific size, because you could imagine that with just GPS signals, we wouldn't be able to figure out, like for a tiny area, if somebody visited that, because it would just not be accurate enough. But we're making a lot of improvements there. So this is coming to a lot of businesses at the moment. So this is one way of figuring out, okay, are my online ads actually driving people in store? One of the first advertisers to try this was a US company called PetSmart. And what they were able to figure out, that 10 to 18% of their search clicks resulted in a visit to a PetSmart store within 30 days. And they now use this data to better decide on their budgets and figure out, okay, how much of our online spend should be dedicated to driving visits to our local stores. Again, of course, it's also a question of facilitating certain behavior, and in this case, facilitating online to offline behavior. 3 examples here. On the left, the example where on the website, based on GPS location, they're able to show when I view a specific product, it shows if this product is available in a store that is close to me. The second example here in the middle is an example of IKEA. In general, the website doesn't look very, very sexy, but it does have the information you're looking for. Because if you search for a specific product, you get to the product page, and basically it tells you if that product is available in the store you're at. It tells you exactly where in the warehouse you can find this product, how many there are, and they even have the always handy the instructions of how to set up your Billy bookcase in case you're looking for that on mobile, because obviously they know that's a typical mobile use case. You don't have the instructions anymore. Quickly look on your phone and you find it here. The third one from Crate and Barrel is one example of a page where they have information about their store, so store locator. And the nice part here is that they basically have all the information somebody would be interested in. They tell you where the store is, how far you're from it, have the phone number here clickable. You can immediately get to maps and directions. They have the opening hours and even events that are on in the store. You can see them here, so if there are specific things happening. Summarizing this, in the short time, of course, you can look at your advertising and make sure that if you have stores, you're targeting people around that you have local inventory ads and so on and so on. There's loads of things you can do there, and of course also in terms of accommodating this online to offline behavior, especially with your mobile site, because we know that effect is definitely there. Then you need to find ways to measure store visits, but also to measure calls, what we discussed before. And optimize or measuring is nice, it's good, and I know loads of people are interested in it, but the measurement has, in some way, has to be actionable, right? You want to do something with the data you gather, and that ideally should be automized. You don't want to spend your days looking at Excel files and looking for pockets of opportunities. Ideally, this would all be automated, and that's what we're working on here. Now you notice here that I don't just have an AdWords logo here at the top. I have analytics here as well for measuring stuff, and especially for measuring store visits. And I wanted to give like a sneak peek of the analytics stuff that I'll be talking about a bit more in the breakouts. So basically, if you send people to your mobile site and then they visit your store, there's various ways of recording that in analytics as well. And I'll talk a bit to those. But I just want to show one example of how easy it is to get offline data into analytics. And I'll do so by doing a little demo here. So maybe we can switch to my laptop here on stage. Yeah, cheers. Okay. Let me just go into the real-time report here. So let's imagine that you have a physical store, and you basically want to figure out, okay, are more people now coming to my store if I really start targeting people that are nearby with certain keywords or ad groups or campaigns? Is traffic going up? And of course, you could sit in front of the door and count everybody that's going in, but it's really easy to automate stuff like that as well. And just to show you how easy it is, I here have a little mini computer. It's a Raspberry Pi, that's connected to a so-called door opener. Yeah, so there's basically 2 little thingies here, and normally, I hope everybody can see this, normally these would be connected to the door, and if the door opens, these go like this, and then the door closes, and then it goes like this, then it opens, and then normally this immediately shows up in analytics, and it worked when I tried it before the session. All right. I see myself on screen here. So yeah, okay, now they're coming in. Can we switch back to, there was a slight delay here. So we can now see, so this is analytics, and this is the so-called real-time report in analytics. And in real time, normally you would see here what is happening on my website. But I hooked this up to my Raspberry Pi mini computer here. So what basically happens is that hits get sent from my Raspberry Pi into analytics. And we can see here that this was in the event category footfall demo, so people getting into the store. The event action here was close door. So if I now would open it again, hopefully it would also recognize my close door. Sometimes there's a bit of a delay. But then in the end, you'll see, so this is the real-time report. These events also get recorded in another section where you normally would go to look at events, like how many people came in during a specific day. But I'm already happy that at least 2 of those hits were now recorded. The other ones will be there as well, but sometimes the real-time report is a bit buggy. But I think you kind of get the idea. If you would just set this up in your store at the door, would immediately be able to see how many people actually visit your store. Can we switch back to the presentation? Yeah. So one of the cases I'll talk about in our breakout is one here by Galeries Lafayette, who did some pretty advanced stuff by linking analytics up with their loyalty card. And that's how they're able to figure out that 20% of their store transactions were preceded by an online visit. 20% of those online visits were from mobile devices. And 50%, and that's the same number that we saw before, of those visits happened on the same day of the offline transaction. So people searching on one day for Galeries Lafayette, then going into store and making a purchase. And that allows them to figure out, okay, how much value are we driving to our offline stores? So I'll discuss exactly how they did this, how they set this up, and what the requirements are in the session after this. Really quick recap. Super important to go beyond these outdated metrics like in-device conversion rates. Nobody should really look at those and base decisions on those type of metrics. It's really important that you optimize for conversions, all conversions across all screens. Yeah, it's all about the total number of conversions that you generate. Nobody cares if those conversions come from desktop, mobile, or tablet. It's just important that they occur and that you increase the number of conversions. And I think this is especially important, that you need to link measurement to action. Loads of people want to measure basically everything and then have everything set up. And then you ask, okay, so how do you use this data? What do you do with it? How is it actionable? They don't really know. And this is really important. Think about the actions you want to take before you start figuring out, okay, how are we going to measure everything? The actionability part is super important. Okay, my time's up. Thanks a lot for your attention. Now, I know that was loads of content to digest, even for myself. And then with the demo not working 100%, sorry about that. Are there any questions you guys have? I heard yesterday there were tons of questions, so I'm pretty eager to get some as well. Yes. Wait 1 second. I think you know the drill with this one, right? Cheers. And you really need to talk into it.
Yeah, no,
okay, cool.
Point of clarification, really. The first part of the conversation, you talked about cross-device tracking using AdWords tracking.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the presentation, you were talking about using Google Analytics to track offline events.
Yeah.
Will those Google Analytics offline events be included in the cross-device tracking?
So by default, in AdWords, that only works if you really use the AdWords conversion tracking tag. So for instance, if you would import goals from analytics to AdWords, is that what you guys are doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would not, at the moment, and of course, yeah, Google's working on loads of solutions to make this stuff better, because it's not ideal that the logic is different in AdWords from GA versus DoubleClick versus, we now have odometry as well that's able to track conversions, and all the logics are a bit different. So we're working on making it better. But the short answer is no, that doesn't work at the moment. Okay. And that's kind of from my perspective, a shortcoming of that use case of GA goals. If you import them, there's some stuff that just doesn't work, which is a shame. And the advantage of the AdWords use case is that it's immediately actionable, basically. GA is in part as well, of course, but you won't have all the data at the moment.
Yeah.
At the moment. Yeah. Great question. Yeah. Another great question. Yeah. Gentleman over there. Thank you.
I love your presentation. Appreciate it. My question is based.
Let's stop it there.
Okay. Based on your experience and the feedback you get from clients and partners, what top 3 trends do you see in web analytics?
So I'll cover. I think I'll cover all 3. I have exactly 3 main topics for my workshop, as you'll see on the first slide there. But I think one of the key things is around customer centricity. So trying to measure customer activity either across devices or across channels, and getting like this holistic view of a specific customer, and trying to find more high-value customers. So I think that's one of the key things. In terms of web analytics, the presentation I have later on, I actually crossed out web from the web analytics part, because I think analytics is moving beyond just measuring websites and apps, but including loads of other relevant stuff as well. And I think a third one, you asked for 3, right? So I think a third one, and maybe that's not so much a trend, but something people are struggling with is everything related to attribution. And not so much the cross-device attribution part, but simply attribution between channels or even campaigns, ad groups, brand versus generic. I think people are now understand that last click is probably not the right solution, but what is the right solution? And that's kind of what they struggle with. Like, what is the right model? Is there even a right model, or should everything should credit be distributed dynamically, basically? And I think that's a big challenge, and also one of the things we're heavily invested in making sure that people move away from last click to a model that's better for them, but then ideally automating that and not having like a static model that you optimize based on. So everything related to attribution and linking attribution to bidding and targeting, which currently is really tough if you use GA and you use like multi-channel funnels in GA and then figure out, okay, what value should every channel, every ad group, every keyword get? How do you link that to your bidding? It's pretty much impossible to do that right now. So that's a big trend as well, I think, making that better. Yeah. Very good question as well, yeah. Cool. There's one question just behind you, I think. Gentleman in the white shirt, yeah.
It's about the last point. How could you observe which are the best opening source for conversion?
The best open source, so where the opportunity is the biggest, you mean?
Yeah, I mean in analytics. You were talking about last click models, first
click
models, and it's a big challenge for me to try to identify what is the best opening source that lead to conversion between organic, search, which campaign, all this.
Yeah. So it kind of depends, like figuring out which traffic source initiated most conversions. You can basically do that by looking at the funnel report, right? Like the top funnels. And if you would dare, in the model comparison, switch to a first click based view, you would see those channels or campaigns or ad groups that get most credit if you would credit the first interaction, basically. The issue with that, though, is that that is, of course, based on your current marketing spend. And it doesn't take into account the opportunity is there. Maybe there's totally other campaigns or ad groups or channels that if you would spend more on those, maybe those would show up as the best ones to initiate conversions. So, and that, to me, especially makes attribution so complex or challenging, because it's always based, in general, it's often based on historical data, and that doesn't have to be like the optimal scenario. Maybe your decision shouldn't be based on that, but should be based on what is possible if you would do stuff. And only with like stuff like incrementality testing, which we've launched with a couple of products. We have a product called Conversion Lift, basically, that allows you to test with specific budgets and specific campaigns how much incremental value those campaigns and ad groups drive. You can start finding out, okay, maybe I should invest more in display because it drives conversions later on in the funnel. And so I think that to answer also the web analytics question, and this is an advanced topic and I didn't include it here, but everything around incrementality testing and figuring out how much additional conversions can I drive is a key topic. Yeah, great question. So I don't know by how much we ran over now, but if there's other burning questions, otherwise happy to answer anything in the breakouts that are coming up. Okay. Cool. Thanks a lot for your attention.